why don't we go ahead and get started? I am really excited for the conversation today. We're going to be talking all about goals. So I'm going to be sharing with you all the 4 secrets that you can use in your own life to instantly commit to your goals and live a life that you love, even if you don't know where to start, even if you have failed at achieving your goals in the past, and even if you don't even know what your goals are. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's really simple. I'm going to break all of it down for you today. So before I do that, let me go ahead and introduce myself for those of you who do not know. My name is Kat Dean. I am a life and manifestation coach, and I'm also a human capital consultant. And all that is a very fancy way of saying I understand people very, very well, mindset, why we do the things that we do, why we don't do the things that we know are in our best interest, and how do we ultimately help you achieve a life that you love. And I largely believe that each of our minds, your mind, my mind, is our most powerful asset. But unfortunately, so many of us are not using it to our advantage. And even worse, we're using it to our disadvantage. So we're using it in a way that is sowing doubt and low self-confidence and stifling us from living a life that we love. So I ultimately believe that if you can get control of your mind, if you can have a healthy, empowering mindset, then your physical life will be the same as well. Now, I want to share with you guys my journey because I was not always like this. I didn't always believe in the power of mindset, nor was I this sure of myself growing up. So a little bit about me and who I am. I grew up in Waldorf, Maryland, and if anyone's ever heard of it, it's the boomiest of Maryland. And there just were not a ton of people who looked like me. And you know, I think if anyone was to speak to my mother, she would attest that I really had a lot of emotional turmoil growing up, especially in high school. I had a lot of issues with identity and just understanding who I was for decades that went on. And even during high school, you know, where I was told that I talked different and I was the only dark-skinned girl, that I wasn't attractive, and all of these things that really started to internalize how I saw myself. So I dealt with depression, anxiety, eating disorders. This photo is not even that long ago, just 5 years ago when you can look at it, I look like a skeleton. I was sick, I was frail, and I was not doing really well. And this is kind of the turning point for me when I decided that I'm way too young. I have my entire life ahead of me, and I was going to really invest in my personal development. I purchased a coach. I spent a lot of money to get my mindset right, so that I could have a life that I loved. And I like to say all of this because it's really important that the physical life that you're experiencing is simply the manifestation of what's going on internally. So if we can get the internal right, we can get the physical right as well. So I know this sounds shocking, but if you stay to the end, I will prove to you that I can help you shift your mindset and live a life that you love and want. Okay, and I may even throw in this recording for you as well, if it'll be helpful for you to refer back to. So let's hop right on into it. I want to really quickly say that you are in the right place. If you're tired of making excuses about not having enough time and not being able to achieve your goals, you're in the right place. If you need some help, you know you want to make change, you kind of just need some help. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. You don't know the strategies, you don't have the accountability, you don't have the current mindset to get you there. You're also in the right place if you feel like you are running in place. Lots of movement, but not really going anywhere, which is something that so many of us struggle with. And lastly, you're in the right place if you're a busy professional. So you have the career, but you're still lacking the joy, the laughter, even the money, all these other things, the fulfillment that you know you deserve. And so you kind of just are trying to figure out, how the heck do I get this in my life? So let's talk about it. I am going to break down how to achieve your goals, again, in a very simple, not complicated, and fun way. I don't care what anyone tells you, but goal achievement should be fun. It should be empowering. So we're going to get into it. If at any point you have questions, anything is confusing, please stop me. I'm also going to open it up for a Q&A at the end, but as we're going, type in the chat, let me know if anything is not making sense. Okay, let's hop into it. So There are really two key steps you need to focus on to achieving your goals, okay? Now, within these two key steps, there are there's some secrets and sub-steps, but these are the two key steps that if you master these, you're on a way better track than those people, okay? So the first step is that mindset piece like I was talking about. First, overcoming limiting beliefs. You need to do this piece first because if you don't, you're simply using an old belief system to try to achieve your goals, okay? And if it worked, then you wouldn't have the life that you have currently. Your current belief system is what got you your current results, okay? So you first need to shift your belief system to get you where you want to go. Once you've done that mindset work though, the second thing you need to do is actually setting up your goals properly. And we're going to get into what this really means, but there are a number of things like your habits, like the right environment, that even structuring your goals and defining your goals that you need to do to properly achieve them. Okay, and this is what sets people apart from those who achieve their goals from people who don't. They have the mindset and they've properly structured their goals and they have the right mindset to go about getting their goal. So we are going to start with step number 1, and I'm going to get into exactly how do you really shift your mindset and overcome limiting beliefs. Okay, so first of all, what are limiting beliefs? Do people know what they are? You can either drop in the chat or come off mute. And if you don't want to know what they are, that's absolutely okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a limiting belief is just having a preconceived notion that you're not good enough to do something.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Is there anything anyone would like to add to that?
Or letting your past have a control over your future, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely right. Any false construct or, kind of barrier you put on your potential, and like you were saying, based off of, right, past experience, based off of setbacks and disappointments. And the funny thing is, limiting beliefs are typically your mind's way of trying to protect yourself from disappointment again. But in reality, they're what hold you back, okay? So it's really important to know where your limiting beliefs are stemming from so you can tackle the source of it. Absolutely, Courtney. Things like, I'm not good enough, I'll never achieve these things. Whatever it is that you've told yourself, that is a reason why you don't deserve the life that you really do deserve. So limiting beliefs are different for each of us, again, because they are so unique and innate to our lived experience. But there are different types of limiting beliefs that I would love for you to be aware of. I am super curious to see if anyone's heard of any of these, and then if not, we can really break down what some of them are.
I definitely struggle with the catastrophizing one, like one mistake and I feel like everything is just done for.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start from the top with polarized thinking. It's very similar to catastrophizing. They're all so connected. But the nuance here is that it's really black and white thinking. So leaving basically no nuance, no level of complexity for the fact that you're a humanity, right? There are going to be some things where you're not going to do perfectly, but you're basically saying, I either get it right 100% of the time or I'm at an absolute failure, right? Instead of saying, yeah, I can get it right maybe 50% of the time, 60% of the time, and then the other times they're learning experiences, and recognizing your own humanity. Similarly to overgeneralization, so taking a single event as absolute truth about yourself. And this can be good or bad, but typically it's something when something negative happens, then you're just this awful person because, one friendship didn't work out, you're not a good friend, that you're unlovable, that you're too difficult to have in people's lives, whatever it is. And then to Simone's point, catastrophizing. People think this is just having a paranoia, but it actually is, it's having that feeling of maximizing setbacks, right? Maximizing the disappointments in your life, the failures you've had, but simultaneously minimizing your successes, minimizing your positives. We all have a tendency to do it. You know, it's why you remember when someone has insulted you more than you remember when someone has complimented you, or you remember your failures more than your successes, right? It's this idea that you're characterizing yourself based upon catastrophes you've experienced. And my personal, I think I call it my favorite because I think it's the least suspecting, but I think one of the most powerful is emotional reasoning. And this one is saying that just because you feel something, then it must be true. I feel ugly, I must be ugly. I feel fat, I must be fat. I feel like I'm annoying, I must be annoying. Whatever that is, you're taking your feelings as absolute truths. And this one is very, very dangerous because your feelings, as we all know, are not the truth. They're basically only your perception of yourself, not other people's perception of yourself. So that one is one to be very aware of because it'll sneak up on you. Are there any questions? No? Okay. So let's actually talk about what the heck do you do when you're realizing that you are exhibiting a limiting belief? Like, how do I get control of this? So this is the first secret, number one, which is how do you flip your limiting beliefs? So it's kind of a really very quick 3-step process. I first want you to look at where in your life you're unhappy, okay? So simply ask yourself, okay, where am I unhappy? Is it my career, my relationship, my weight, my financial situation, whatever it is? And then saying, well, what is a limiting belief that has held me back in this area? Why is it that I haven't left this relationship? Why isn't it that I haven't tried getting a new job? Whatever that thing may be, why haven't I started that business, right? Ask yourself, where am I unhappy? And then get to the limiting belief that's tied to that thing. I just did this activity with a client and she had a bunch of trauma growing up in her childhood abuse, sexual assault, all these things. And so her limiting belief is that she was damaged and unlovable. So we take that negative false belief about yourself, but what we do is we flip it as a powerful truth and fact about yourself. So instead of being I'm unlovable and I'm damaged, it becomes I'm full of wisdom and purpose, and my pain makes me a conscious partner. Okay, you don't have to make it unrealistic or a lie, right? But what you're doing is you're finding the power in that experience instead of using that experience to tear yourself down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It does, but what if you just can't seem to connect that negative belief to some different fact?
Yeah.
Like how do you make the connection to something more positive?
Yeah. Sometimes it can simply just be as simple as taking the opposite of it when you're not able to do that. But that's where a coach comes in and is able to see the nuance in your situation, right? Is able to say, you've had this thing happen to you. You've had damaging experiences. Yeah. Someone assaulting you is unlovable. That doesn't make you per se unlovable, right? That's the nuance where having an external eye is really useful. But for people who are struggling, we just flip it, and then we really get into discussion, and then they're able to tease out a really powerful truth about themselves. So that's a great question. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, let's hop into step number 2. Okay. So this is where the real sauce is, but it would be remiss of me to not talk about the importance of mindset. I think it is the foundation of everything. Okay. So step 1, get your foundation right, overcoming those limiting beliefs, creating new truths, powerful truths about yourself, right? And knowing them as a fact. Once you've done that, now we actually talk about your goals, okay? Don't even worry about the goals yet until you get the mindset right, because there's really no use to doing it. So once you've done that piece, when we talk about goals, we're really talking about 3 key steps. Okay, these are my little secrets for you guys. So we're gonna break this all down in 1 second, but the first is that towards goals are more powerful than away from goals. And you may not know what that means quite yet. I'm gonna show you in the next coming slides, but hold on to that. Towards goals are more powerful than away from goals. The second thing I want you to keep in mind when it comes to goals is that focusing on aligned action is also more powerful than being busy. When I say aligned action, I'm talking about actions that are in alignment with your goals. Actions that are actually supporting and furthering your goals, okay? And the last one is, this is one that no one really likes, but it's the truth. You need to act as if you already have all the resources available to you now, because the reality is that you do. You do, or you at least have majority of the resources you need to achieve your goals. So saying things like you don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have this, none of it's true, because you have an abundance of resources that you can use to achieve your goals, okay? So let's get into the first one. Secret number 1 around towards goals versus away from goals. I am curious, has anyone ever heard of these two types of motivations before? You can just shake your head or drop it in the chat.
Have not.
Never.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, most people haven't, but there's really powerful nuance in them. So I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible. So when we talk about away from motivation, it is essentially that you are rooting something in a problem. There's a problem that you either want to prevent, avoid, escape, fix, whatever it is. You're trying to literally get away from something. That is your motivation, moving away from something, okay? On the flip side of that, we're going to talk about both in a second, but on the flip side of that is towards motivation. Now, when we're talking about towards motivation, it's not rooted in a problem, it's rooted in a goal. So you're looking at things like you're driven towards something, right? Driven towards possibilities, driven towards what you want, what you can do, what could be possible, okay? As you're probably already starting to tell, one is very negative framing, right? Negative framed, and the other is more positive framed. Now, there's all this discussion in psychology if one is worse or better than the other. Hands down, we've agreed that towards motivation is more long-term sustainable, okay? And I'll tell you why in a second. When it comes to away motivation, it can be very useful in the short term. I don't want to discount that. And it goes back to the fact that we are human beings, fight or flight response. If you have you're in immediate danger, yes, in the short term, you're going to be more motivated to get away from that thing, right? Whatever it is, an abusive relationship, bad job, on and on and on. The problem is, once you've immediately escaped that threat, your mind you lose momentum, basically. You kind of go into a lax mode because that thing is no longer an immediate threat. On the flip side, though, when we talk about towards motivation, it's not as dire, if you will, right? Yeah, I would love to achieve this thing, but you may not be like, oh my gosh, my life depends on it. But the power of towards motivation is that they're more sustainable. As you build momentum towards a goal, your encouragement of it gets higher and higher. You get more motivated by it as you start seeing the results, as you get closer to the goal. Okay, so what we decided is that towards motivation is much more powerful from the standpoint of longevity. If you also just think about it from the standpoint of the law of attraction, right? When you have positive energy about something like a towards motivation, you're attracting positive energy. When you have negative, distressing, hateful, desperate energy, like an away from goal or away from motivation, that's all you're going to attract, okay? So first thing is first is trying to think about your goals and frame them in a towards motivation way. I'm going to stop there and I want to see if that makes sense or if that was unclear in any way.
No, it makes sense. Definitely getting the positive feedback sort of with towards motivation, right? To sustain it.
Yeah. And it can be really tough. I mean, I work with women all the time, and at the surface level, it seems like you have a towards motivation. So I want a new job. Okay. that it's moving you towards something. But a big indicator and a really useful way to see if it's really a towards motivation is to keep asking why. Like, why do you want that new job? What would that do for you? Why does that matter? And I say you need to ask why 5 times, okay, to really get to it. And if the real root of it is because I hate my boss and I have no time, that's an away from motivation, and we need to reframe that. The easiest way to reframe that is by gratitude, okay? Gratitude journals actually do have value, and it's because it allows you to see the positive in your current situation and then build upon it. I see some thinking faces.
Makes sense. Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a light bulb. Because I'm trying to figure out which one I'm in. And I feel like a lot of times I can put myself in that away from motivation. So, yeah.
No,
But maybe saying you really need that more challenging job to get to the next step, or whatever that is, as opposed to you really do hate your boss, right? Take that out of the equation. Very interesting.
I think that the away from motivation is also, I use the word easy. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just easier to say, like, you know, using the boss thing, like, well, I just need to go, so I'm just gonna go, versus taking that time to actually think about it. Like you said, ask yourself 5 times the why, and then move forward from there. I think it's just much easier to be like, you know, I'm not gonna do this, and I'm just gonna go.
Yeah. And it's a great call out, Erin. It's why you see people repeating the same toxic behaviors, job to job to job, relationship to relationship to relationship. They never really got to the why. There's a reason why people have those repetitive behaviors. It's because, to your point, they don't really know what they're going after. They just know what they're trying to run away from. And so it's a really powerful way to know what the heck do you even want in your life, and then go after that. Okay. Let's get into my secret number 2, which is a pretty tactical one. And I think it's probably the most common sense, but it's really important to call out, which is the difference between being busy and then having productive, aligned action, okay? So busy is what you don't want, okay? It's things like doing a bunch of shallow tasks, giving your attention to everything. I say a really great way to know if you're busy versus productive is if your default is yes, and you're not making true progress towards your goal, okay? On the other hand, productive is deep action that is aligned with your goals, okay? You're prioritizing the most important tasks, you're delegating, you're saying no more often. No should be your default. I don't care what anyone tells you. We have designed women to say yes more than we need to, but you need to be operating in a default mode of no, so that you can do the things that you love that add to your life, okay? And do the things that fuel your purpose. This is important because when we talk about goal achievement, this gets back to what I was saying in the beginning of this conversation, is people can be doing a lot of movement and not really going anywhere. And this is the nuance why. You're busy, but you're not productive. And so every time you're thinking about, should I do this thing? Is this relevant or not? I want you to ask yourself, how would the person I want to become act? And then you need to act like that person now, because that's the only way you're going to get the goals you want, period. You're not going to get them. It goes back to the mindset. Like, you won't get new goals with old mindset. You're not going to become the person you want with false actions. You need your actions to be aligned with that future person, okay? So really important for you to, even if you don't feel like it right now, you don't feel like the boss baby you are, whatever it may be, I really want you to start acting as if you're that person already. And that's what's going to get you there. And this is what I say to people. How would that person act? How would the highest version of myself act? And then do it. Like, immediately, like, unapologetically, relentlessly do that thing based upon how that person will behave. That's what's going to get you there.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah. It can be anything so as simple as I think weight loss is a really powerful example. I think it's something that, especially with being indoors all the time, people have gained weight, and rather than pushing it off or trying to, what I say is like, pretend, fake it till you make it, just be honest with yourself. How would a person who's healthy, how would a person who's health conscious behave? It doesn't have to be super complicated. And then you start to incorporate and align your lifestyles with the behaviors, with the character traits of that person. It's really that simple. And the reason why, I've done a couple of videos on this in the past, but the reason why it's so important is because how you see yourself, your identity, is what will ultimately drive your behavior. So the more you can identify and see yourself as that future version already, the more likely you are to act like that future version of yourself, even today. Are there any questions? Okay, great. Let's hop into secret number 3. Now, no one likes the secret, but I have to call it out. You need to act as if you already have the resources, all that you need to do the things that you want to do. In life, there are both tangible and intangible goals, okay? So the tangible goals, obviously the money, technology, all the gizmos, the cars, the makeup, the lashes, whatever it is that you think you need for your goals. But there's also a boatload of intangible things, like your time, like your mindset and your creativity and your self-belief. And so oftentimes what I've seen is people overemphasize the need for all these tangible goals, and they really de-emphasize the intangible goals that they already have at their disposal, or that they can develop or become more strategic with, such as their time, right? Such as their mindset by doing personal development. So my probe to you is, what would happen if you acted as if you already had everything you needed to achieve your goal? And it's a really important one to think about. And then you start thinking, I probably would have already done the things that I needed to do if I were to behave this way. And I say that to all my clients, it's your willingness to leverage the resources you have at your disposal now that's going to help you achieve the things that you want. Oftentimes we think that, okay, once I get the money, then I'll have the freedom. Once I get the job, then I'll be able to, have the relationships I want or do the things I want or whatever it is. But it's like, no, there are things you have at your disposal now that will help you achieve those things in the future. So there are really 2 questions you need to ask yourself to understand this. The first is, 1, what are the resources I need to achieve my goals, both intangible and tangible? And the second is asking yourself, okay, now which ones are really at my disposal, like immediately at my disposal? Which ones can I develop, like the intangible ones, like your mindset? And which ones do I need to ask people for some help on? Maybe the money, maybe the resources, right? When you break it down that way, you realize that you actually have more control than you thought you did originally. Does this bring any light balls or any moments for people?
I do think we get stuck in the tangible resources, and how, and I guess that's where a coach comes in to help you, really focus on those intangibles. But it's so easy to get stuck there.
Yeah, I can agree. I feel like I've been wanting to journal, but I have to get a good journal to start journaling. And then I stop journaling, and then it's like, okay, now I need to get a new journal to restart my journaling. So I feel like I get into that kind of rut. So it's nice to hear that people go through the same thing I do. So it's nice.
I think another point would be, like you said, whether it's a coach or whatever it is, being open to asking other people for help. A lot of times that can be really uncomfortable, but like reaching out to your community, your family, and that doesn't necessarily look like money or anything like that. Maybe it does if you are in a position and you need that. But just being open to the idea of asking for additional help from your community, whether it's just like, I don't know, an accountability partner, or yeah, I mean, money could be the resource too, but asking people for help. Yeah.
Yeah. What
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking about some of the skills, right? So sometimes you're like, I really don't even know how to start with that business plan, right? And so, yeah, you can go buy it, but you might find that you have folks around you who actually know how to do that, right? So, but you get stuck in, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a dangerous loop. I always tell people, if you're revisiting something a million times, just delegate it. Like if it's taking up so much energy of yours, right, trying to figure out how to move this thing forward, either delegate it or just take action. Action is truly the best way to stifle fear because it gets you in movement. So it's really simple, but it's a really powerful way to take that first step towards your goal.
It almost sounds like there's a relationship between I think it's the people that was the one that was like, I need more money and all of that. It almost seems like there's a relationship between that one and the away from mindset.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of giving yourself excuses, and you're focusing on the problem rather than the solution.
Absolutely.
Can you go back to that last slide, just with compared to tangible to the intangibles one more time? Because I think that was, yeah, see that belief like you mentioned, right, is in that intangible.
Yeah.
That was interesting connection.
And and if you just think about it, personally, I think that the intangibles are much more powerful, because even if you do give people money, let's take like, I don't know, the stimulus. I mean, how many people really use their stimulus checks in a useful way versus just bought whatever? And so people are always going to make an excuse. And my understanding is that you can focus on the intangible, which you have an abundance of. There's no shortage of intangible resources. You can actually move your goal along even without all the tangible resources that you think you need or want. So that's really important to call out, because you give people stuff and they just flounder it. So I'm like, nope, you need to get the intangibles right first, and then we can talk about what the tangibles will look like. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so that's really, it's just quite that simple. You know, I always tell people, you don't have to make goals complicated. It doesn't have to be this big, huge thing. It doesn't have to be exhausting, right? Overcome limiting beliefs, right, by flipping negative beliefs and creating powerful truths about yourself, and then setting your goals up properly. And it's by these three things we talked about. So having towards goals, focusing on aligned action, and really thinking about what resources can I have? Do I have currently that I can use? Which ones can I develop? And to Erin's point, how can I ask someone? Who can I ask for this resource? So that is the brunt of our conversation. But the reality is that there's only so much that I can share with you guys in 30 minutes. So I would love to, share with you guys my program, because the reality is that I have a full 12-week program all around not just goals and overcoming limiting beliefs, but talking about your strengths, your passions, the future life that you want for yourself. So I want to see if that would be useful, if people want to check that out. Okay, great. So I'm going to show you guys really quickly, step by step, what I do with my clients. It's a 12-week program that is really focused on goal achievement. But the cool part is it's without all the floundering, without wasting your time, without losing motivation and all those things that happen when you're kind of doing this by yourself, when you don't have a coach, when you don't have a community. So I walk people through a step-by-step process. We get control of those limiting beliefs. We really talk about your strengths, your values, the things that excite you. We, of course, do some manifestation, and we'll talk about what you want your new reality to look like, right? What do you want your financial situation to be, your relationships, your job, everything really about your life. And then we, of course, talk about, how do we help you get there? What does the roadmap look like? What are the habits you're doing? What are the environments, that you're you're fostering for yourself? How are you setting up boundaries? All of those really important things to really achieve your goals. And so I'm going to break down exactly what you would get as a part of the coaching program. So it's the 12 weeks on one-on-one coaching with myself. It's not a team member. It is me doing the coaching with all of my clients. You get a wellness plan, and that's physical, mental, all of it. But I really focus on this because mindset without the physical, right, without actually focusing on your diet, your exercise, all those things, doesn't make sense. The two go hand in hand, actually. It's all about discipline and aligning yourself with who you want to be. We do a guided manifestation exercise. So really talking about, again, what's a proper way to manifest your reality? Manifestation has become a really big buzzword, but the reality is people don't know how to do it. And I'm a certified NLP practitioner, and there's a really true and proper way to go about it. So we talk about manifestation. We do an exercise together to help you achieve it. You, of course, get direct email and text support from me. There are plenty of times outside of our one-on-one conversations where you just need someone to talk to. You have a question, there's something came up, you're dealing with a conflict. And so I'm always there for my clients. And then, of course, the roadmap as well to really help you action on your game plan. So the total value of this is $6,350. But I want to talk about, we're going to get to what the actual cost of it is in a second, but I want to talk about why this matters and why I even designed this to begin with. Because the reality is the money is like, again, we just talked about it. It's a tangible thing. Money is like easy to get. Okay. So the reality though is understanding why you need this and why it's useful to you and why you want to overcome limiting beliefs. So when we talk about limiting beliefs and goal creation, it's really important because there's this very unique, kind of complicated, interconnected relationship between what you think about yourself, how you feel, how you act, and then ultimately your life, okay? And the errors are intentionally sloppy and confusing because they are so interconnected, they're so interrelated. But basically what I'm saying is that you can get control of both your mindset and your actions, your habits, right? The things you're doing on a daily basis, you can ultimately really transform your life. And that's why I created this program. I created this program because I know what it's like to feel stuck. I know what it's like to be unhappy with your life, to know you deserve and want more, but not know what to do and not have anyone to reach out to. And so I invested in my training, my education, to maximize not only my results, but also the results of those I work with. And because I overcame so much of my own obstacles, I feel like I have an obligation to share this with others. And so that's why I created this work. So I always say, this is not for everyone. I'm very clear about that. But this is for the woman who wants to take action over her life, who needs a plan, a support system, a coach to help her achieve her goals, right? Who needs a little bit of help, like Erin said, who wants to improve her mindset. Maybe she wants to improve her financial situation or her confidence or her relationship or whatever it can be. And is dealing with negative emotions such as low self-belief or even self-doubt, but knows that she doesn't deserve that. On the other hand, though, this is not for the woman who blames others for her life and does not take accountability. Any of my coaching clients will tell you that I do not believe that everything bad that happens to you is your fault. And people who say that are full of rubbish. Like, that's not true. But it is your accountability to improve your life. You are accountable for the future of your life, your happiness, your joy, your fulfillment. And that's the tough part, right? Blame and accountability don't always go hand in hand, but you have to be willing to take accountability for your life. You also have to be coachable. You have to be someone who will take action. And you have to be someone who, or if you're someone who's, wanting to stay comfortable and who does not believe she has the right time or enough time, then this probably isn't for you either, because these types of behaviors are not people who are wanting to move forward, right? And I can't force anything upon you. The pressure has to come internally. That's when it's the most powerful. So So if these things are you, then maybe this is not for you. But again, if you're someone who's ready to move forward, who wants to but needs some support, then definitely this program is for you. And the time piece is a really big one for me. When people complain about not having time, I don't know. It's like we all have things going on, right? And so I own and operate 2 separate businesses. I have my coaching, I have my little rental business, I have my consulting job, right? We all have things to do. But thinking back to what we talked about earlier, it's really thinking about what are the aligned actions that are going to get me towards my goal? What are my priorities? And so I really think that time is an excuse, and simply just communicating that something's not a priority is always, more honest with yourself. I seriously mean that. I have a packed schedule. It's not busy, it's productive, it's aligned to my goals, it is packed, right? And so when I take on clients, it's really important to me that they are mindful that, I'm investing my time, that you're investing your time, because we've agreed upon that this is something that matters to you. So going back to what I said, everything is a choice. And 5 years ago, when I really made the decision to overcome all the things that were stifling me and holding me back, I made a choice. I had to decide whether I was going to stay stuck, feeling unworthy, being sick and depressed and overwhelmed, or if I was going to move forward, if I was going to, heal myself and focus on my goals and live a life that I felt alive in and purposeful in. So let's go back to the offer itself. Like I was saying, you not only get all these things here, right? The one-on-one coaching, the wellness plan, all of the goodies around supporting you and really helping you work towards your goals. But if you purchase by Sunday at midnight, you also get the access to the monthly group mastermind and private community, which is where I convene all of my one-on-one clients and coaches. And we just have a really supportive community and conversation. And you also have access to what I call as a daily habits tracker and accountability. So really talking about what are the things you need to be doing on a daily basis that'll build the life you want. I call them atomic habits, right? The small things that over time add up to living a life that you want and feels good to you. So the total value of this is over $8,000. But that's obviously not the price. Don't worry. I'm going to break everything down for you right now. I'm going to show you, I'm going to make it super simple for you. And I want to make it a no-brainer, because what I don't want you to do is spend a decade of trial and error or whatever, however long it is, of feeling the way that you're feeling. You have 2 options, okay? Option 1 is to stay where you're at. And there's nothing wrong with this, okay? If you're fine with where you're at, there's nothing wrong with it at all, right? But if you're wanting more, then that means that you're staying stuck, that you're not having coaching and guidance, that you're going to continue making excuses, and you might not be taking action towards your goals. And if you can live with that, then that's okay. If that's your truth and you can live with that, then do that. But option 2, and what I think is your option, if you're still on this call, is to take a bet on yourself and to invest in your future, to take in new information from someone who has studied this and has worked with other clients as well, and just take massive action to improve your relationships, your money, your career, finances, everything about your life, and really change your reality. And I put this on here because we're so often focused on the price of doing something, right? But we never actually think about the price and the cost of not doing something. And that to me is the cost that we need to start talking about more. You should be more concerned with. So my question to you is that if you're feeling nervous about the price, if nothing changed about your life, like if your life stayed as it is for the rest of your life, okay, could you live with that? And the answer might be yes. Again, and if it's yes, that's great, really. But for most people, it's not. And so if you are that person in the second bucket, then you need to hop on a call with me and join my program, because the reality is that you deserve more. I strongly believe that each of us has a purpose and that the world needs your light and your joy, and you deserve that. So I'm accepting 10 new clients, and that's it, because there's only one little me and many of you. And after that, the door closes for a few months, because again, that's all I can take on at one time. But I am really honored for all of you for staying on this conversation. For all my action takers out there, go ahead and book a free call with me. I'll be sending you all not only this presentation, but also a link to schedule time with me as well. And we can talk about your goals. We can see if this will be a good fit for you, answer any questions you have, hear what's on your mind, and really see if and how I can help you. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to stop there and see if anyone has any questions. And then if not, we will hopefully see each other on the other side. Are there any questions?
That's great. Thank you. Much to ponder.
Yes, this is really good. I feel like you got my life together and stepped on my toes a few times and probably half the slides. So I'll definitely be talking to you.
I love it. Thank you all so much. I so appreciate you. We'll talk soon, okay?